Before we dive into the story, if you're enjoying these meaningful stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more. Now let's start the story together. Have you ever planned everything? Every napkin, every candle, every single dish, only to feel invisible the moment dinner began? That was me. The night I got accepted into UCLA's MFA program, I thought they'd be proud. Instead, they mocked the rosemary chicken I made and moved on to my brother's promotion. Not one person asked what I'd be writing. That's when I realized I wasn't a guest at that table. I was the planner. I've spent years folding napkins, ordering cakes, seating people so they wouldn't fight. But they never once asked what I wanted. If you've ever been the one holding the camera but never in the photo, this story is for you. Because I finally reclaimed my seat, my voice, and my name without raising my voice once. I booked a table for one. And when they texted, "Where are you?" on graduation night, I was already celebrating, not with them, but with peace. If you've spent your life holding everyone else together while being quietly erased, you need to hear what happened next. Because sometimes healing starts with one RSVP, your own. Before we dive into the story, if you're enjoying these meaningful stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more. Now, let's start the story together. They said the rosemary chicken tasted like soap. I'd rubbed it with lemon zest, hoping to brighten the dish. Guess I overdid it. The table was already set when they walked in. Napkins folded into triangles, candles flickering softly, and the playlist looping old jazz, the kind Dad used to hum along to when I was little. No one noticed. No, this looks lovely. No, smells amazing in here. Just coats tossed onto the couch and shoes kicked off like it was any other Tuesday. Mom was the first to speak. "Why is the chicken floral?" I smiled tightly. "It's rosemary and lemon zest." She sniffed. "Humph. It tastes like hotel soap." Zach snorted. Lindsay laughed into her wine glass. I don't remember who else chimed in, but I do remember my fork paused mid-air, and I suddenly didn't feel like chewing. 2 days earlier, I'd opened an email alone in my car and cried happy tears into a paper coffee cup. I'd gotten in. My dream, the MFA program at UCLA, and I had thought, naively, that tonight would be a celebration. So I cleared my throat, lifted my glass, and said, "I have news. I got into the writing program." They paused. Nods. "Oh, that's nice," Aunt Karen offered, half looking at her phone. Dad asked if UCLA was the one in LA or San Diego. Then the conversation turned to Zach's promotion. More money, stock options. Of course. The meal went on. Someone passed bread. Someone spilled wine. I stayed quiet, trying to convince myself I was imagining it all, but I wasn't. No one circled back. No one toasted. No one asked what I'd write or when I'd leave. The only thing they passed was judgment. Then came the laughter. Something about my old Prius still chugging along. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I looked around that table and realized I was the glue they used and mocked in the same breath. So I stood up, gently placed my fork on the edge of the plate. "Next time," I said, voice steady, "you can order takeout. I'm done." The silence that followed was thicker than any gravy I could have made. No one stopped me as I carried my plate to the sink, rinsed it, and walked to the guest room. That night, I folded my apron slowly, creased it along the same seams I'd used since high school. Only this time, I folded it like I would never wear it again. And the thing is, I meant it. Being helpful is only noble until it becomes expected, and then it becomes invisible. When I was 10, Mom burned the Thanksgiving turkey. Smoke curled into the kitchen like a ghost of good intentions, and guests were already at the door. I folded napkins into fans, poured sparkling cider, lit the candles before anyone noticed the smell. That night, she called me her little lifesaver. It stuck, like grease in an oven you never clean. Zach's high school graduation party was supposed to be a family effort, but somehow I ended up with a clipboard and a task list. I'd booked the taco truck, made the Spotify playlist, even created little name cards for the buffet. On the day of, Dad clapped Zach on the back and said, "This is all thanks to your planning, son." Zach just smiled, soaking it in. I said nothing. Over the years, the requests blurred together. "Claire, can you take care of the cake? Mind picking up the flowers? You're so good at that stuff." At some point, I stopped hearing them as favors. They were just defaults, expected like oxygen, acknowledged like wallpaper. On my 27th birthday, I booked brunch at a sunny little cafe near the river. I paid the deposit, pre-ordered the cake, even arranged the table seating so no one would have to sit near Aunt Karen's politics. We took a photo in front of the cafe window. Well, they did. I was the one holding the phone. Tonight, I sit at my desk, scrolling through old folders. Zach's grad, 2018. Dad's retirement bash. Mom's 60th itinerary, final. My name is on every Google Doc, every email chain, every RSVP spreadsheet. But in the actual photos, I'm either blurry, blinking, or missing altogether. I click into the folder titled Claire's Master List. Subfolders for shopping lists, decorations, menu mock-ups. I don't hesitate. Select all. Delete. I even empty the trash. I don't feel vindicated. I feel quiet. Like something I'd been dragging for years had finally unclenched its grip. Then it comes. A text from Zach. "What's the plan for grad night dinner?" No greeting. No question mark even. I stare at it for a while. My thumb hovers over the screen. I could say, "Not my job," or "Ask Mom," or nothing at all. Instead, I press the side button. The screen goes black. There's a moment right before a structure collapses where everything looks stable. Then the air shifts, and just like that, I let the scaffolding fall. No one noticed I'd stopped answering the group chat, but silence has a weight of its own. It gathers, one unread message at a time, until it presses gently on your chest like a reminder. They only miss you when you miss a task. Spring had fully arrived on campus. Pink blossoms scattered the sidewalks like confetti someone forgot to sweep up. Banners hung from lampposts. "Class of 2024, you did it!" I walked past a group of undergrads taking selfies in their caps. Their laughter rose like birdsong. It felt like someone else's movie. I checked my email again. The subject line glowed. "Commencement update. You've been selected to speak." My first reaction wasn't joy. It was stillness. The kind you feel when a tide pulls back and you know something is coming. But this time, it's yours. Later that afternoon, my professor caught me in the hallway. "You'll be wonderful," she said. "Will your family be there?" I smiled politely, undecided. She didn't push. She just placed a hand on my shoulder, warm and grounding. "Then let this speech be for you too." At home, my phone buzzed. "Mom, need head count for the restaurant. Zach says we'll need 10. Thoughts?" I stared at the screen. "No, how's your speech coming?" "No, we're proud of you. Just logistics." I opened the Resi app instead. Scrolled until I found it. Bar del Vin, a quiet wine bar tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. I'd gone once, alone, after turning in my final research project last semester. The sommelier remembered my name. Table for one. June 14th, 8:15 p.m. I booked it. There was something peaceful about knowing exactly how I'd celebrate. No toasts, no family stories I'd heard 100 times. Just me, a glass of red, and maybe a plate of soft cheese with olives. Sometimes, starting over doesn't need an audience. I returned to the university portal and opened the RSVP form. Number of guests. I clicked submit. That small act, 3 digits and 1 click, felt louder than any argument I'd ever had with them. Later, walking through the quad, I passed the graduation booth, rows of gowns, tassels, alumni mugs. I paused, touched the edge of a cap, then kept walking. There's a strange kind of power in not needing to prove anything anymore. This wasn't about absence, it was about presence. Mine. They thought graduation meant photos and champagne. For me, it meant no more folding napkins no one saw. The university auditorium pulsed with chatter and camera flashes. Bouquets rustled in arms, signs waved from back rows, and proud tears shimmered in corners of eyes. I walked in alone, no one to hand my coat to, no one calling my name from the crowd. And yet, I'd never felt more ready. In my hand was my speech, printed in 14-point font, folded once and smoothed flat. I carried a single gold pen, gifted to myself last week, engraved with just one word: enough. A girl in line ahead of me fumbled with her cap. Her mom was supposed to help, but got stuck in traffic. I offered to fix the bobby pins, and she smiled with relief. "You here alone?" she asked. "By choice," I said. And it wasn't bitter. It was true. I watched students squeeze into frame after frame with their families, moms fixing ties, dads adjusting gowns. One girl wept into her sister's arms. I felt something, not envy exactly, more like noticing the shape of an empty chair that used to matter. The dean's voice echoed, names were called, and gowns shuffled across the stage. When they reached mine, I took a breath, tucked my speech against my chest, and walked. One step, two. Smile for the camera I knew wasn't aimed at me. The diploma felt lighter than I expected. Then they handed me the mic. I looked out over a sea of faces, strangers mostly, but a few leaned in. My professor gave me a quiet nod from the second row. "I'd like to thank," I began, my voice steady, "the version of me who stayed up late making things easy for everyone but herself. The one who triple-checked the playlists, baked 2 cakes just in case, and still felt invisible." I paused. Not a single flash went off. "This is for her." Scattered applause at first, then more, not thunderous, but genuine. A few students clapped longer, some smiling like they understood. I didn't need them to. As I stepped off stage, my phone buzzed. "Zach, they're not letting us in. Where are you?" No apology, no ownership, just confusion, as if the roles had flipped and I was the one breaking a promise. I held the phone in my palm for a moment. Then I pressed and held the button until the screen went dark. It was the cleanest silence I'd ever heard. Backstage, I sat on a folding chair and looked at the speech again. Not to reread, just to fold it. Once, twice, then into quarters. I slid it into my coat pocket. My hands didn't shake. They'd thought they could arrive late and still take the front row. But this time, the door stayed closed. Not by accident, not out of cruelty, just closed. Graduation wasn't the end. It was the start of something that didn't require permission, and I was already in motion. They had a table booked for 12. I had a quiet corner and no appetite for guilt. Downtown Portland shimmered under the soft amber of early summer evening. Couples strolled along the river walk with frozen custard, and the street lamps blinked on one by one, like someone gently tapping each to life. I walked slowly, the cool air brushing against the back of my neck. In my coat pocket, the folded speech still rested, warm from my hand. The cafe was nearly empty when I stepped in. Low jazz drifted from an old speaker above the espresso machine. I asked for a pot of lavender tea and chose a window seat that faced west. The light was perfect, just enough to make everything look a little softer than it really was. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again and again. Group text, "Where are you?" "We had a cake." "You could have said something." Zach's message was short. "This is immature." I didn't reply. I stirred my tea slowly, watched as the steam curled, then vanished. A server came by with a small white plate. "Tiramisu," she said, "on the house. Graduation's a big deal." I smiled, genuinely this time. "Thank you." Another buzz, an email from Aunt Karen. Subject, "Your mother Claire. She's very upset. I'm not saying you were wrong, but you could have handled this better. Family's complicated. You know that. I read it twice." Then typed back, "So could she." I didn't hit send right away. I let it sit there, the cursor blinking, like it was asking me one last time if I meant it. I did. Click. The tiramisu was light, creamy, a hint of coffee that lingered just long enough. I ate half, slowly. The rest I left untouched, not out of sadness, not to make a point, just because I could. Outside, the sidewalk pulsed with laughter and clinking glasses from the restaurant across the street. I could see the big table by the window, the one they'd booked. Balloons tied to a chair, a square cake box on the side. Mom sat at the center, looking at her phone. Zach leaned back, arms folded. Dad scrolled through something. No one looked up. I watched for a full minute. No one noticed me. I didn't wave. I didn't pause. I just kept walking. They'd planned a night around me without ever asking what I wanted, but I wasn't their placeholder anymore. I wasn't folding napkins or calling ahead to make sure the cake was nut-free. I was just me, quiet, full enough, and heading home. Back at the cafe door, I pulled my phone from my coat one last time. Group chat, Hastings events and family. I tapped delete thread. A little warning popped up. Are you sure? I was. The screen blinked, then went blank. Outside, the river moved quietly under the bridge, steady and unbothered. Somewhere inside me, a weight shifted. Not lifted, just shifted. Like a box you finally set down in the right corner of a room. And for once, I wasn't carrying anyone else's dinner plans. For the first time in years, the only name on the RSVP was mine, and that was enough. The morning came in gently through the slats of the blinds, casting golden stripes across the hardwood floor. My apartment was quiet, but not the kind that aches, the kind that hums, like warm tea or a favorite book that waits patiently for your attention. I sat at the kitchen table, just one chair now, with my journal open beside a French press of coffee. No schedule, no group texts, no centerpieces to arrange, just steam rising and a fresh page waiting. I wrote slowly. Maybe I'll go to Taos, or just the coast. Maybe I won't do anything for a while except breathe. The basil plant on the sill had grown wild these past weeks. I snipped a few leaves, not thinking too hard about it. There was pasta cooling on the stove, butter melting into its soft spirals. I served myself a bowl. No one else's preferences to consider, no substitutions or extra servings. As I took the first bite, the phone buzzed across the counter. Voicemail from Mom. I didn't answer. I knew what it would be before I even pressed play. Her voice, tight and tired. Claire, we miss you. I don't understand why you're doing this. Please, just call back. I listened once, then placed the phone in the drawer beneath the cutlery and shut it softly. I lit a small candle on the windowsill, lavender and sandalwood, and let the silence settle back in. There was peace in not explaining. In the drawer below, tucked among tea towels, was the apron I'd worn since high school, the one with fading floral trim and the faint outline of rosemary stains that never quite washed out. I folded it neatly and placed it down, smoothing the corners. On top, I added a note in blue ink. Retired. It didn't need a ceremony, just space. Later that afternoon, I logged into the travel site and booked a small cabin near Mount Hood. July 4th weekend. 1 bed, 1 guest. Claire Hastings. I clicked confirm. Then I returned to my journal and wrote my final line for the day. I was never just their planner. I am my own person, and I finally RSVP'd to myself. Just before closing the book, I stood and walked to the table. With both hands, I pulled the second dining chair away and gently set it aside. There was no need to keep space for someone who never truly sat down with me. Not in this life I'm building now, and certainly not at this table. That morning, sunlight filled the room, and for once there was no table to set, but my own. The silence wasn't empty. It was mine, and it was enough. Sometimes, the hardest part of letting go is realizing you were never truly seen in the roles others gave you. But peace often begins when we stop asking for a seat at a table that never made space for us. In this life, you don't need permission to value yourself. If this story reminded you of someone you've quietly loved or quietly became, feel free to share your thoughts below. I'd be honored to hear how you found your own seat, too.